My name is Clara Whitmore. I am 28 years old. At my own wedding, my fiancé's rich family laughed at my father right in front of everyone. They mocked his old clothes, called him a poor man, and forced him to the back table, like he didn't belong there. I stood there watching. My father slowly lowered his head. My mother's eyes filled with tears. And him, my fiancé, just stood there smiling. That's when something inside me broke. I stepped forward, took the mic, and destroyed everything. Before I tell you what I actually did, take a moment to like and subscribe to the channel and tell me your country in the comments. Now, let's begin. The lights were warm and golden. Soft music filled the air as guests laughed, talked, and raised their glasses. The entire hall looked like something out of a dream. Crystal chandeliers, white roses everywhere, and tables covered in silk. It was supposed to be the happiest night of my life. My wedding night. I stood near the stage, my hands slightly shaking, trying to steady my breath. People kept coming up to congratulate me, smiling, praising the decorations, the food, the arrangements. Everything looked perfect, at least from the outside. Because deep inside, something felt off. I glanced across the hall, and there they were, my parents, standing among the other guests, side by side, smiling, looking at me. Proud, happy, like this moment meant everything to them. My father gave me a small nod, the kind he always gave when he wanted to say, "You did well." My mother's eyes were shining, not with tears, but with joy. For a moment, I smiled back, and something inside me softened. Everything is fine, I told myself. They're here, they're happy, but still, that strange feeling didn't go away. My father adjusted his sleeves awkwardly, trying to look comfortable. He wasn't used to places like this. He was a simple man, someone who had spent his entire life working with his hands, fixing machines, repairing things, doing whatever job he could find to provide for us. His clothes were always clean but never expensive. He never cared about brands. He cared about honesty, respect, family. Growing up, we didn't have much, but we had enough love, enough warmth, enough strength to get through anything. I still remember the nights when the power would go out, and we would sit together in candlelight. My father would tell stories, my mother would laugh softly, and I would sit between them, feeling like I had the richest life in the world. We weren't poor, we were just simple, and I was proud of that. Always. My mother was just like him, quiet, kind, working long hours, sometimes taking extra shifts just to make sure I never felt like I was missing anything. She never bought anything for herself, but somehow she always found a way to get me what I needed, or even what I wanted. I don't remember a single day when they made me feel less than anyone else. Not once. And standing there that night, seeing them among the guests, smiling at me, it should have felt perfect. But it didn't. Clara. I turned as I heard my name. It was him. Ethan. My fiancé. He looked perfect in his suit. Confident, calm, completely at ease in this world. This was his world after all, luxury, power, high society. He reached for my hand and smiled. "You look beautiful," he said softly. I smiled back. "Thank you." For a moment, everything felt normal again, like the life I had dreamed of was finally real. I met Ethan 2 years ago, not at some fancy party, not at a business event, but in the most unexpected place, a hospital. My father had gotten injured while working, and I had rushed him there in panic. I was sitting outside his room, worried, tired, completely overwhelmed, and that's when Ethan walked in. He was visiting someone too. We started talking, at first small things, then longer conversations. Days turned into weeks, and weeks turned into something deeper. He didn't act like the rich, arrogant men I had imagined. He was kind, patient, different, at least that's what I believed. When he proposed, I didn't hesitate. I thought I had found someone who saw me for who I was. Not for where I came from, not for what I had, but for me. And he told me something I never forgot. My family doesn't matter. I choose you. I believed him. Completely. But his family, they were different. Very different. From the moment I met them, I could feel it. The way they looked at me, the way they spoke. Polite on the surface, cold underneath. They weren't just rich. They were the kind of people who cared about status, reputation, appearances. Every relationship they had was calculated. Every connection had value. And, to them, I had none. I wasn't from a powerful family. I didn't bring business connections. I didn't come with wealth, influence, or a name that could benefit them. More than once, I heard small comments hidden behind smiles. Ethan could have done much better. There were so many suitable matches. Why would he choose someone like her? His mother once said, while looking directly at me, "In families like ours, marriages are not just about love." His father never said much, but the way he looked at me was enough.
To them, I wasn't one of them.
I was someone who didn't belong, someone who didn't fit into their perfect world.
Still, I tried.
I stayed respectful. I stayed calm. I told myself, it will get better. Once we're married, things will change, love will be enough. I looked at my parents again, still smiling, still talking to the guests around them like everything was normal. But then something felt strange. I looked at Ethan's mother. She was staring at my parents, not smiling, not looking away, just watching them. Then she leaned closer to her husband and whispered something in his ear. He followed her gaze and looked at my parents too. He didn't react, didn't say anything, but the way he looked at them
put a strange fear in my chest.
I frowned slightly. Was I overthinking? I told myself, maybe it was nothing. Maybe I was just nervous. I tried to ignore it, tried to focus on everything else. But then dinner service began. Guests were guided to their tables, and the main table filled quickly. Ethan's parents, his close relatives, important business guests, people who clearly belonged to his world. I waited, watching, expecting someone to guide my parents forward. But no one came. Instead, I saw a waiter walk toward them. He spoke politely, but his hand pointed somewhere behind, far behind, near the corner of the hall, near the service door. My heart dropped. "No," I whispered under my breath. I stepped forward instinctively, but someone stopped me. One of Ethan's cousins. "Hey, Clara, come," she said with a bright smile. "We're taking photos." I turned once more, and there they were. My parents quietly getting up, following the waiter. Not asking questions. Not complaining. Just accepting it. I couldn't breathe properly. But before I could move, the photographer called out loudly, "Bride and groom, please." And just like that, I was pulled into another moment, another smile, another pose, another distraction. Minutes passed, or maybe longer, I don't even know. All I knew was that something inside me felt wrong. Very wrong. Finally, I couldn't ignore it anymore. "I'll be back," I told Ethan. He nodded, distracted, laughing with someone. I turned and walked quickly through the tables, past the laughter, past the music, past the glittering lights, until I reached the back. And then I saw them. My parents sitting at a small table. Not decorated like the others. No centerpiece. No candles. Nothing. Just a plain table near the kitchen door. Every time the door opened, loud noise, heat, voices shouting, plates clattering. It wasn't a place for guests. It was a place people were supposed to ignore. My father sat straight, trying to act normal, but his hands were clenched tightly. My mother, she was trying to smile, but her eyes were already red. "Dad," I said softly. He looked up immediately, forcing a smile. "Clara, you look beautiful," he said, like nothing was wrong, like this was normal. "Why are you sitting here?" I asked. Before he could answer, a voice cut in. Oh, she finally noticed. I turned. Ethan's mother, standing there with a group of women, dressed perfectly, smiling but not kindly. "We thought it would be more comfortable for them here," she said lightly. Closer to the kitchen. Less overwhelming. The women beside her chuckled softly. I felt something tighten in my chest. "More comfortable?" I repeated. Before she could reply, Ethan's father spoke, calm and cold. "Clara, let's not pretend." He glanced at my father, then at me. "This level of event isn't for everyone." Silence. Heavy. Sharp. One of the women added, not even trying to lower her voice, "Did you see his jacket? It looks so old." Another laughed. "And those shoes, oh my God." My father lowered his head slightly, just a little, but I saw it. Then Ethan's sister stepped forward, smiling like this was all entertainment. Honestly, she said, looking at my father, I was worried he might sit at the main table and confuse the staff. For a second, there was silence. Then laughter. Soft at first, then louder, spreading across the nearby tables. My chest tightened. Another voice joined in. At least now he's closer to where he belongs. More laughter. My mother's hands started trembling. She reached for her glass, but her fingers shook too much. Her eyes filled slowly. She blinked quickly, trying to hold it in. And then, Ethan's mother said it, with a calm, satisfied smile. They should be grateful we even invited them. That line broke something inside me. I turned immediately, looking for Ethan. He was standing not far away, watching everything. For a second, our eyes met. And I waited. I waited for him to speak, to step forward, to stop this. But he didn't. Instead, his sister leaned closer to him and whispered something. I didn't hear the words, but I saw what happened next. Ethan smiled. Then he laughed. A real laugh. Not forced. Not awkward. Real. And in that moment, everything inside me went completely still. No anger. No confusion. No doubt. Just clarity. I looked back at my parents. My father sitting in silence. My mother, a tear finally slipped down her cheek. She turned her face away quickly, trying to hide it, but I saw it. And that was enough. Suddenly, the music didn't matter. The guests didn't matter. The wedding didn't matter. Nothing mattered, except one thing. Them. I took a slow breath, then another. And without saying a word, I turned. I walked. Not fast. Not slow. Just steady. Through the tables. Through the crowd. People started noticing. Whispers spread. Where is she going? What's happening? I didn't stop. Not until I reached the stage. The microphone stood there waiting. For a second, I just stared at it. Then I picked it up. The sound echoed through the hall. The music stopped. Voices faded. All eyes turned toward me. And in that silence, I finally spoke. Enough. My voice echoed through the hall. Sharp, clear, unshaking. Whispers stopped instantly. Even the staff froze. I tightened my grip on the mic. All of you have been enjoying this evening. I paused, letting the silence grow. Laughing, celebrating, pretending everything here is perfect. I turned slightly, looking directly at Ethan's family. But I think it's time we talk about what's really happening tonight. Uneasy glances spread across the room. I raised my hand and pointed. My father, the man sitting back there, the one you laughed at, the one you mocked because of his clothes. My voice didn't shake, but my chest burned. That man spent his entire life working with his hands, so I could stand here today. Silence fell. Heavy, uncomfortable. He never asked for luxury. He never asked for approval. But he deserved respect. I shifted my gaze toward my mother. And my mother, my voice softened just a little. The woman who gave up everything for me, who stood there tonight trying to smile while you made her feel like she didn't belong. A tear rolled down her cheek again. I looked back at the crowd. You made her cry. No one spoke. No one moved. Then, I turned slowly toward Ethan. And you, he stiffened. I looked at you. I waited for you to say something. A pause. To do something. My voice dropped colder now. But you didn't. The room felt heavier. You stood there, and you smiled. His face changed, the confidence gone. You laughed. That hit him hard. I took one step forward. So let me make something very clear. My voice was calm now, too calm. A man who is ashamed of my father is not someone I can build a life with. Gasps spread across the hall. Ethan took a step toward me. Clara, wait. I raised my hand, stopping him. No. Silence again. Then, I smiled, just slightly. But that's not the only thing you should be worried about. Confusion spread. Fear followed. I looked at his parents. You spent the whole night deciding where my father belongs. I paused. Now let me show you where you stand. The room held its breath. The investment firm that owns a major share in your company. I stopped, letting the silence stretch, letting the confusion grow. Belongs to me. For a second, no one reacted. Then the room shifted. Whispers, frowns, people turning to each other. Ethan's father stepped forward suddenly, his voice sharp. "What nonsense is this?" I looked at him, calm and steady. Not nonsense facts. His jaw tightened. "That firm is one of our biggest investors." I nodded slightly. "Yes, it is." A flicker of confusion crossed his face. "Then don't be ridiculous. We know every major investor we work with." That's when I smiled, just a little. "No," I said quietly. "You know the name of the firm. You know the contracts. But you never cared enough to know who stands behind it." Silence. "The firm is registered under a holding company, managed through legal representatives, and I took a small step forward, and the majority owner behind it." Now it hit. Phones came out instantly. People started searching, checking, calling. One man near the front whispered loudly, "She's right. That firm owns nearly 30%. The air changed completely. Ethan's father's face lost color. "Ethan," he said sharply, "do something." I slowly turned my eyes toward Ethan. For a moment he really looked at me, and in his eyes there was no anger, no confidence, only fear. He didn't move, didn't speak, because he knew there was nothing he could say that would stop this. I turned back to his father. "You built your reputation on power, on control, on believing people like me don't matter." I paused. "So let me show you what control really looks like." The room was completely silent. "I am officially announcing," I spoke slowly, clearly, "that my firm will begin the process of detaching all investments from your company." Gasps. Sharp. Loud. "And once that happens," I tilted my head slightly, "let's see how strong your brand stands without us." Panic spread instantly. Investors whispering. Guests exchanging looks. Phones ringing. "Starting tomorrow," I continued, "I will be calling for an emergency board meeting. Every investor in this room will receive a full report." I let that sink in. "Not about your numbers, but about your character." Ethan's mother took a step back, her face pale, his father completely stunned, and Ethan still silent. I took a slow breath, and in that moment they finally understood. This wasn't anger. This wasn't emotion. This was control. I took a deep breath, then bent down slowly and removed my wedding ring. The small sound of it sliding off my finger echoed louder than anything else. I placed it on the table beside me. "This wedding," I looked at him one last time, "is over." Gasps. Shock. Whispers everywhere. But I didn't look back again. Instead, I walked down from the stage, straight to the back to them. My parents. My mother looked up at me, her eyes still wet. I gently wiped her tears. Then I took my father's hand. "Let's go home." He didn't say anything, but his grip tightened. And together, we walked. Through the same crowd that had laughed, now completely silent. No one stopped us. No one spoke. And just before I reached the door, I paused. I didn't turn around, but I said one last thing. I would rather lose everything than stand beside people who don't understand respect. And then, I walked out, leaving behind the lights, the noise, the lies, and the empire that was about to fall.